What if I told you that to really understand a country, you don't need a textbook? All you need is a calendar. Today, we're going to zoom in on just one 24-hour period that, believe it or not, reveals the hidden truth of modern Japan. That day is March 1st, 2026. And what happened on this one day? Well, it tells us pretty much everything. So if you were scrolling through social media on this day, you would have seen a very specific version of Japan. The Tokyo Marathon was on, and the whole world saw this vibrant, fun-loving country. You know, a place of just endless creativity and joy. This is the Japan the world thinks it knows. But if you were actually here, on the ground, in Japan that day, the whole vibe, the air, it felt completely different. See, behind all those colorful costumes, it was a day of just crushing pressure, some real national disappointment, and a lot of hard questions about the future. The fun part was real, for sure, but it was also hiding a much darker, way more complicated story.
And this huge contradiction is perfectly captured in the marathon itself. I mean, it's one single event telling two completely different stories at the exact same time.
Okay, so first, you've got the story that the whole world saw and shared all over the internet. The classic only in Japan spectacle. You had runners celebrating Pokemon's 30th anniversary dressed up as Pikachu and Eevee. You had Super Mario, Sailor Moon. I mean, people were running 42 kilometers dressed as a piece of sushi and even French fries. It's just this joyful, viral moment that perfectly captures that creative, playful side of Japan that everyone loves.
But while the world was smiling at the cosplay runners, the elite race was a brutal, dead serious battle. Just look at these times. The winner, Tadesse Tekele, won by a fraction of a second. The top 4 runners finished within just 7 seconds of each other. This was not a party, this was an incredibly high-stakes competition.
And this is exactly the kind of comment you see everywhere online, right? International viewers see the fun, they see the creativity, and they just fall in love with that image of Japan. But this sentiment is what sets up the huge contrast with the domestic pressure cooker that was happening in the very same race. This number right here. 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 59 seconds. For Japan's top runners, this number was hanging over the entire day. This was the automatic qualifying time for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. And really, it was the only thing that mattered.
So for the nation, the day wasn't a success. Both of Japan's top runners, Suguro Osako and Kengo Suzuki, missed that critical Olympic standard. So while the world saw this fun Japanese party, internally, there was this deep sense of national disappointment. Fun on the outside, immense pressure on the inside. You know, this theme of conflicting realities wasn't just in sports. On that very same day, March 1st, Japan's whole relationship with the world took a really sharp turn, and it revealed a completely different kind of pressure. Economic pressure. On March 1st, Kyoto, the cultural heart of Japan, basically changed its welcome mat. Before, the strategy was simple: get as many tourists here as possible. But on this day, the city signaled a huge pivot towards quality over quantity, and they started specifically targeting wealthier visitors to help manage the crushing crowds.
So get this, before this day, it didn't matter how luxurious your hotel in Kyoto was. It could cost 50,000 yen a night, it could cost 500,000 yen a night. The absolute maximum accommodation tax you would pay was just 1,000 yen. And then, March 1st hits. The new maximum tax for a luxury stay, anything over 100,000 yen a night, became 10,000 yen. That's a 10-fold increase. The message could not be any clearer.
But this wasn't just about money. It's about a core Japanese concept called santoku, which is all about weighing the pros and cons, the profit and the loss. For years, locals have felt that they were losing more than they were gaining from mass tourism. So this tax is a clear attempt to rebalance that scale, to make sure the city gains enough from wealthy visitors to offset the loss in quality of life for its own residents.
And on that same day, another story was making news that challenged one of the most powerful global stereotypes about Japan, this idea of perfection and absolute efficiency. The world has this image of Japan as a place where the trains are always on time, the technology is flawless, and everything just works, you know? It's a huge part of the national brand. But on March 1st, news reports were dominated by an incident that showed some really serious cracks in that brand. A detailed report on the recent Tokyo Skytree elevator incident was being covered everywhere. 20 people were trapped for 6 hours. But the most shocking part? The emergency intercom was broken. They were totally cut off. A passenger had to use their own personal cell phone to call for help. I mean, for a country that prides itself on safety and preparedness, this was a deeply, deeply unsettling failure.
And it wasn't just an isolated event. On that same day, the launch of the private Kairos 3 rocket was delayed again, which was a real setback for Japan's space ambitions. So from a high-tech elevator failing in the wind to a rocket being grounded by weather, the image of a perfect, unstoppable machine, well, it was facing some serious real-world challenges.
So in the middle of all this pressure and all this complexity, how are people and companies actually navigating it all? Well, March 1st gave us two really fascinating answers.
First, there's the super creative approach. The popular udon chain Marugame Seimen announced this huge collaboration with Dragon Ball Z. They temporarily changed their name to Marukame to honor Master Roshi, dressed their staff in his iconic uniform, and created these totally viral menu items. It's just a brilliant example of using Japan's greatest soft power, anime and food, to win in a tough economy. Now contrast that corporate fun with the real-life Santoku battle for everyday people. On March 1st, labor unions were pushing for a record wage hike. They weren't just asking for more money, they were literally fighting to not lose to inflation, which has been squeezing family budgets for years. It's the harsh economic reality hiding behind the anime-themed udon.
So when you take all these different threads from just a single 24-hour period, the marathon, the new taxes, the technical failures, the Dragon Balls, and the wage fights, what picture of Japan really emerges?
The truth is that the real Japan exists in the tension right between these opposites. It's a place of global fun and local failure, of welcoming tourists while at the same time building economic walls. It's a nation that's wrestling with its own myth of perfection against the messy reality of its problems, and it's leveraging its incredible creative soft power to fight some really hard economic struggles. All of this is happening at once. And that leaves us with a fundamental question. Is modern Japan a quirky paradise designed for outsiders, or is it a high-pressure society that's struggling to balance its global image with the well-being of its own people? The truth of March 1st is that it's both. And that's a contradiction Japan is going to be grappling with for years to come. What do you think?